All right, welcome back to Genius. So today, let's talk about Git basics. Okay, so what are the basic things that we can do with Git, most especially the commands? What are the basic things we can do with Git? We have installed Git. We have taken a look at what version control systems are. So let's take a look at Git basics and understand how we can work with Git. So Git, yes, you already know it's a distributed version control system. We have local, we have centralized, and we have distributed version control systems. And Git is a distributed version control system that helps developers to keep track of changes in their code, work on features safely, and collaborate with teams. Now, it is distributed because it is not just on one server. Centralized version control systems are on one server. The database, the code base, everything is on one server. But for distributed version control system, it is not just on one server, it is on multiple servers, okay? So it allows us to keep track of changes in our code. So we are going to see how to keep track of those changes in our code. That's the essence of the Git Basics class today. So think of Git as a time machine for your code. So Git, it lets you save different versions. That's different snapshots. If you make any change to your code, now you can save that particular change that you made. You will see everything. So you can also go back to previous ones and see who changed what. So it's about keeping track of the changes that are happening on your files, on your code base. It's not only code, it can be files, it can be videos, it can be anything at all. All right. So the foundation of Git starts with a few essential commands. So the first one we'll take a look at is the Git init. So the Git init is used to initialize a Git repository. If you're working on a folder, on a directory, on a project, if you have not initialized it, it will not be Git initialized. All right, so it will have nothing to do with Git. So, but if you want to initialize a new project, you can, the command git init is used to create a new repository in your project folder. So this is always the first step when starting to use Git in a new project. So what am I going to do now? I'm just going to create a new project. Although I already have this guy on, but let me close this. I'm going to start a new project. All right, so I'm going to start a new project altogether. So here I would just, okay, I would create a new folder and I will call it Git. I'll call it Git. What should I call it? Git. Should I say Git tutorial? All right. Whatever you can name it anything. Okay, so now this is my Git folder. So this in this case now, this folder or this project is not Git initialized. It has nothing to do with Git. It's not a Git repository. So how do I make it a Git repository? So I'm going to open this in Visual Studio Code. All right, I'm opening it in Visual Studio Code. So with Visual Studio Code, I can see the files and I can also use the terminal too. That's why I'm using Visual Studio Code to open the folder. So you can see that this folder is very, very empty. It is very, very, very empty. All right. So what can I do here? First of all, I have an empty folder. It has no files at all. It has no files at all. So it's either I create a new file or I initialize it to Git. So let me initialize it. So I'll click on terminal. I'll open a new terminal. All right. So I have a new terminal here. So if I want to initialize this folder, this project, but make sure that your terminal is open on this Git tutorial. Make sure you're working on the current directory. Look at it. This says 100 days slash Git tutorial. So I am on the same folder with this. So anything I do on this folder, anything in this folder now will be Git initialized. So I will say Git init. So once I do this, call this git init command, I hit enter, it says, okay, initialize empty git repository in this. So it has initialized an empty repository and nothing seems to show. Okay, so but the thing is this, um, we are supposed to say the git.git folder. Okay, and we already have it here, but it is not, look at it says initialize empty Git repository in this. So we now have something called the Git. Look at, we have an extra folder here, .git. Okay, so now let me just go and add a file. I will just call this file, I will call, what can I call this file? I will just say, let me just say main.js, create any file at all. But the thing is that my Git folder is not available here. All right, but we are okay. I think okay. If I go back to the folder itself, if I go back to the folder itself, you see, there is this Git folder, but it's not going to open in Visual Studio Code. So immediately I did Git init, it initialized my project to be a Git folder. I get a Git repository, and that is why I have this .git folder inside. So this is where all the information about the Git is here. So we have a folder Git, but it's not going to be available on the Visual Studio Code that we opened. So let's go back. So in this case now, I have the main dot, I can just say console.log git init git init command, whatever, okay? Whatever you want to do. I'm just now, what has happened is that I have initialized this project to be Git repository, and then I have just added as in the JavaScript file here. So now this project is Git initialized. So let's go back. So we have initialized it using calling the Git init. It has initialized our project for us to be a Git repository. So what does this Git init does? It sets up Git to start tracking files in your folder. So what has happened is that since we have initialized this our project now, this folder, everything inside of this folder will now be tracked by Git. All right, it sets up Git to start tracking the files in the folder. It creates a hidden folder called .git inside your project directory. Like I have already shown you that it created a Git folder inside your project directory. So this Git folder stores all the history, the configuration, and the metadata that Git needs to track changes. So that .git folder is for Git. If you delete it, Git will not work on that project. So you don't have to delete it. Once you have done Git init, it has initialized that project to be a Git repository. Okay, so that is how to initialize your project. So how to use it? Open your terminal or your command prompt. Just like for me now, I did it on Visual Studio Code. Navigate to the folder. You must be on that folder that you want the Git to track your files. And when you're calling this Git command, it must be inside the folder. So if you open a command prompt or a terminal, it has to be inside. You have to open that command prompt inside of the folder. So how would you know? Let me show you. This is how you would know. Look at it. Before I called this Git init, look at the folder. Look at where I am. And you can say, this is where I am. All right. So you can say I am at this Git tutorial folder. So if I go back to the, in case you would want to, all right, in case you're working on different projects and you want to initialize a particular project, open the project. Inside of it, just right click. All right, you can open in terminal. You can show more options. Depending if you're using Windows 11, you can see open Git bash here. So you can also open Git bash and you can see that, look at it. Look at it. We are in this folder. Make sure that if you're working on a project like this, make sure that any command you're giving has to be inside of the folder, okay? So, but in this case, I'm going to be using my Visual Studio Code because I'll be editing the file and also be using the command prompt, okay? All right. So, you can do CD my project to go to that project. But I have just shown you how to do it without the change directory command. So run git init, git response with initialize empty git. So this is what git responded with. It told us that it had initialized the empty git, all right? And now your folder is a git repository. So this our git tutorial is now this our folder, this folder here, this project now is now a Git repository because we have initialized it. All right. So key notes to understand: you only need to run git init once for a project, unless you delete the Git folder. You don't have to run git init more than once in a project unless you delete the Git folder. So if I delete the Git folder now, it's no longer going to be tracked by Git. All right. So, but if I delete it, I can initialize it again. All right. If you run it in the wrong folder, Git will not track that entire folder. So be careful. Be mindful of the folder that you're actually running this. This can give you headache. It can make you'll be like, where's my problem coming from? So make sure that you're opening Git, whether the Git bash or the command prompt, make sure you open it in that folder. So always double check where you are. Git init makes the folder a local repository. Right now, this folder is a local repository. We have not pushed it to a remote repository. So it's a local repository right now. So to connect it to a remote repo, you later use git add origin, then the repository URL. But I'm not going to be doing this now because I've not shown you how to create a GitHub account or even create a GitHub repo. So, but what we do is this: at the end of this week, we'll be creating a project that our CLI project will be adding Git remote to it. So right now, this is if you already know GitHub, if you already have a GitHub account and you have a GitHub repo, you can actually go and do this. But I'll leave this to the last day of this tutorial, where we'll be doing it, adding remote repository to it. So in short, Git init is the birth of a repository, the starting point for tracking and managing your project with Git. Make sure you're reading that Pro Git chapter 2. Read Pro Git chapter 2 for this particular class. You have a whole lot to learn from that book. So now, when you have initialized your project and you add a file, just like I have added the main.js file. So you have to stage the changes. All right. When you have a file, all right, and you made some changes on that file, you have to add it. You have to tell not GitHub actually. You have to tell Git to save the changes for you to stage it. So that's what we call staging. So if I make just like I have created a file and I've made a change to that file, I need to stage it. Staging it means telling GitHub that, okay, save my changes. All right. So the git add command is used to move changes from your working directory into Git staging area. Now there are 3 areas. If you read that pro Git, read the chapter 1, read the chapter 2. Make sure you're reading these books. It's not everything that I'm going to explain here. There are 3 areas in a Git repository. In a Git project like this, there are 3 areas. We have the working directory, we have the staging area, and we have the Git repository. And every file in Git is either tracked or untracked. All right. And then when you have actually in your working directory, right now what we have is the working directory. The working directory is just your newly initialized Git project. Now, that's the working directory. So we also have the staging area. I don't know how to explain this thing now. It's just hard for me to explain. I don't know, but if you read the book, you're going to understand better. All right. I don't really know how to explain this whole thing. I don't want to cause more confusion, but the thing is that with these few things I'm saying here, I think you're good to go. So basically, let me put it this way. When you make some changes to your file or you add a new file, you will need to tell Git to track that file for you. You need to tell Git, okay, these changes I have made or this file that I've added, please track it for me. And I've made some changes, please save it for me so that in the next time I want to commit it, you would commit it. All right. So now think of it like a shopping cart. When you modify or create files, they are just sitting on the shelf. That's your working directory. So when you create file or modify files, they are just sitting on the shelf. They are not yet in your staging area. They are in your working directory. So running git add puts the files into the cart. Just like now, Yes. If you go to an e-commerce website now, you're seeing all the things, the products available. You cannot purchase them if you don't put it in the cart. So if you make any changes in your Git repository, you cannot commit them or they cannot be part of the Git repository if you don't stage them. So when you add products to your cart, you cannot check out from your cart. Do you understand? Okay. So the cart is the staging area. Why before anything before adding to the cart is the working directory. So only after committing would they be checked out and permanently saved in history. So even if you make some changes and you actually add it to the cart or to add it to the staging area, they will not be committed to the main, they will not be saved permanently in the main history of your project. They will be saved temporarily. Okay, so now after making changes or creating a file, modifying a file, you will have to stage them by calling git add, and then after calling git add, you now have to commit them so that Git will save it. Okay. So what it does, Git, it tells Git which file you want to include in the next commit. All right. It tells Git which file that you want to save. All right. It tells you, oh, these are the files I want to save. In the next time I would want to make my next commit or save my all the changes in the history, I want you to include this file. It prepares the selected changes so they can be saved, and it allows you to commit multiple files together or only specific ones. So how to use it? Of course, you create or edit a file just like I have done. I've created a new main.js file. All right. You okay. If you don't understand this command, don't bother. Okay. This is making changes or creating a file using the command prompt or command line programming. Okay. So you stage the file with the git add. You say git add, then the name of the file. Then to stage all changes, both new, modified, and deleted file, you just say git add. Okay, so let's go and do something now. So you can see that I already have this file. Okay, so let me show you something. I will say git status. Don't bother if you don't understand what I'm doing here. I'm going to explain what this status means. I'll say git status. Look at what Git is telling me. Git said, no commit yet. I'm on the branch, man. Don't worry, we'll talk about branch in the next class. There is no commit yet. That means I have not saved anything permanently. And there are untracked files. You see that because I have not added this main.js file that I just created now, I have not added it to the stage area. They are untracked. Remember, I said that files can only be tracked or untracked. And in this case, Git does not know anything about this file. Git is not tracking it. So if I want Git to track it and know about it, then I would have to say Git. That is where Git add, then the name of the file is main.js. You understand now? This Git status will give me the status of my Git project, of my Git repository, telling me the commits that I have, telling me on tracked files or the tracked files or the modified file. It just show me the status of my repository. So in this case now, it's telling me that, oh, Oga, this your main.js file, you never save them. Okay. So I will now have to say, okay, since I have not saved it, Git does not know about it. Git does not, it's not untracked. Git is not tracking this file, so it's not keeping record of the changes I have made. So if I want to tell Git to keep record of the changes I'm making on this file, remember that's the essence of using Git. Git allows us to save changes to anything that to our files. All right. So now if I want to track it, I will now say git add main.js. Once I hit enter, all right, it has added it to the tracked to the staging area now. So if I go back and run git status again, you can see now it still says no commit, but it no longer tells me on tracked files anymore. But it starts telling me now that changes to be committed. So any file, Git has said that the next time I do a commit, is going to commit and save these changes permanently. But don't worry, you're going to understand all these things we are seeing here. Don't worry, one small, okay? Small. All right. Especially when you read that book, read it extensively, that Pro Git, you're going to learn so much. So in this case now, these files are being tracked by Git now. These files are being tracked by Git. So these files have been staged. All right. The file has been staged. So if I go on now and say, okay, I want to add another thing, console.log, all right, and I say hello, and I save. Now, I have made some changes to this file now. Look at it. This file now is being tracked by Git, and I just made a new change. So let me go and run Git status again. Let us see what will happen. Git status. Look at what it's saying. It says changes to be committed, all right, this, and it says changes to be staged. What is this saying here? Changes to be staged. It's just telling me that I just modified this file. See, files on Git can either be unmodified, modified, or committed. All right. In this case, this file is modified now. The last time I staged it, all right. The last time I staged it, all right. I didn't add this one, but after I have staged it, setting git add, all right. This was not available, but now I have now added something. So Git is telling me, Oga, these changes need to be committed. You need to stage this guy. You have just modified this file, but they have not been staged. You have not staged these changes. So if I go on and commit this repository now, this new change will not be added. So Git is telling me I just modified this file that I need to stage it. Do you understand? So anytime you make changes to a file, you need to stage it. Okay. But we are coming to that. So you can say git add the name of the file, or you can say git add then space dot. So it will stage all new modified deleted files. So instead of even doing git add, you can just go with git add space and dot. It will stage anything that is a new file, anything that is a modified file, anything that's a deleted file. So I can go on and say I'm doing git add then space dot. Once I hit enter, it will stage all the new files, all the modified files, and all the deleted files. And if I go on now and say git status, you can see we no longer have any modified thing again. We only have things to be committed. I hope I'm not causing confusion. All right. If you have any confusion, please reach out to us. So to stage a whole folder, you can just say git, then add the folder name. Git add folder / All right. So I don't have any folder now, but in case you have any folder, use the git add the name of the folder / to stage the whole folder. So staging area. Staging area is like a waiting room. Your changes sit here until you commit them. So since we have staged the main.js file, the main changes have not been saved permanently, but we have put them in the waiting room. All right, they have not been attended yet, but they are, at least the doctor knows that somebody is waiting for them, so they are in the waiting room, but they have not been attended to. So this file now will sit on this staging area until we make a commit. All right, so you can stage many files at once or just a few, depending on what you want in the snapshot. If you forget to git add, your changes won't be included in the next commit. So if you don't stage any changes that you have made to a file, that change will not be committed the next time you run your git commit command. So in short, git add is like marking files you want to save in the next snapshot. So you say, okay, you're telling Git, okay, these are the next files, or these are the next changes. These are the changes I want to add. These are the changes I want to add to the next snapshot. Okay. All right. So we also have git commit. Git commit is the main saving of the project. So when you say git commit, git is going to create a snapshot. Just take a picture of the changes that you have made, the changes, everything in your project, all the changes that you have made, everything in your project, the current state of your Git repository. Take a snapshot of it, take a picture of it, and save it. So the git commit command is used to save a snapshot of your project stage changes into the Git repository system, into the Git repository history. So it saves a snapshot of your project stage changes. So it will take all the changes that you have staged, all right, and take a snapshot of it and then save it in your Git repository history. So think of it like taking a photo of your project at a specific moment in time. All right. So Git is saving a snapshot, a picture of the current state of your project. Each commit has like a checkpoint you can revisit later. So every commit, if you can have millions of commits, and if you want to have access to all those commits one after the other to see what your project looks like on each of the commits, you can actually do that. So what it does, it records all the files that were staged with git add. You see, so the git commit is the main saving of your project. So anything that is not on the git on the stage area will not be saved. So that means if you want to save any changes or any new file or anything, you have to stage them. You have to use the git add command. Okay. So it creates a commit object that stores the changes that you have made. It will give it a unique commit ID. All right. Don't worry, you're going to see all these things in play. It will give it the author's name and the email. Okay. It will give the date and time. It will record a commit message describing the changes. It becomes part of the permanent history of your project. So after committing your project, even if your system crashes, or maybe you have pushed it to a remote repository, even if your system crashes, you can go to GitHub or Gitbucket, any of the remote repositories that you're using. You can get the same project back. All right. So how to use it? Stage your changes first. Make sure that all the stages, before you even do git commit, make sure you do git add so that you can stage all the changes that you have made. Use git add to add the files, or use git add space dot to add everything. Commit the staged changes with a message. So you have to give a message. You say git commit. So if you want to commit the changes, you say git commit -m, then you put a message in double quote. All right. So if you forget the M, Git will open an editor to type a detailed commit message. Okay, so for now, we are just going to be using git commit -m, and we are going to be using this one. We must be doing this. For now, I don't want to. If you read the book, you would understand what this sentence meant. Okay, but I don't want to go into it now. But this is just enough for you right now. All right, it's just enough. So git commit hyphen dash or whatever m, then added homepage file. That's the message. So now let us go and do a commit. So since now that I have added a file, main.js, and then I have made some changes and I have staged it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to make my first commit. So to make my first commit, I will say git commit is the command, git commit, then -m, then in double quotes, I will put in the message. So this is like a description of the changes that I made. So what I will say, I will just say initial. I can just say initial, um, maybe initial setup, whatever, initial setup. I can now say added main.js. So you are supposed to tell this message is like a description of this commit. So if once I look at what I did, I say git. I hope you guys are even seeing what I'm doing here. Maybe I can increase it a bit. Okay. I hope you're seeing this. All right. So I said git, all right, space commit -m, then inside double quote, and I put a description of what I'm doing. So put a description of your commit. So once I do this, I will hit enter. It has committed it for me. So it told me that one file changed. I have one file that was changed, and I have two insertions. So it means that I made two changes. I added two lines of code. These two insertions said I added two lines of code. Do you understand? It says I added two lines of code. So that's what these two insertions. And it created create mode, and this is the ID. This is the ID of this This is the ID of this commit, and this is the file name. Okay. So right now I have committed. So I've committed, I've saved these changes. So if I go on and say git status, look at what it's saying. It says on branch main, nothing to commit, working tree clean. That means I don't have any changes. I have everything clean. Everything is all right. Okay. Don't worry. Read the book. You will understand better. And the thing is that you're not going to master this thing right away. It will be doing you somehow. But what you do is this. Just be practicing it. The more you practice it, the better you become. That is just it. I learned this thing without anybody even teaching me anything. I was just doing whatever people were doing. And over time it became part of me. But as I started studying more, everything started making more sense to me. Okay. All right. So commit messages, best practices. Keep your commit message very short and descriptive. Use the present tense like add login form instead of added login form. Okay. I don't know if I made that mistake. What was my, so it says I should not use added. I should have said add main.js. I shouldn't have said added main.js. It says keep your description short and descriptive. Use the present tense. So say I could have said add login main.js instead of saying added main.js. So that's the mistake I made. So you explain the what and sometimes the why. So explain the reason for that commit and why the reason for the commit. So example is git commit fixed typo in readme. All right, not fixed typo. You just say fixed typo. So use present tense. Add user authentication system. Don't say added user authentication system. All right, so avoid something like git commit then changes. It does not make any sense. If somebody says it, they will not understand what you did. Stuff updated doesn't make any sense. What stuff was updated? Okay. So keynotes, commits are permanent records of your project evolution. So that commit that I have made, Git has permanently saved it for me. You can always go back to an old commit if something breaks. Each commit builds on the one before it, creating a timeline of progress. Or in short, Git commit is like saving a snapshot of your project's progress into its timeline. All right, so we have already seen the Git status. I've already shown you the Git status. So the Git status command shows you the current state of your working directory. It shows you the current stage of your working directory and your staging area. So it helps you to see what is going on in your repository before you commit it. Think of it like a status report. It tells you which files are tracked, untracked, modified, and staged. And you have already seen everything. You have already seen it. I've run the Git status already. So what it does is that it shows which files are on track. You saw it when that main.js was not tracked. It told us that the main.js was not tracked. Shows which files are modified. All right. So it shows which files are staged. All right. Okay, let's go and do them one after the other. Let me add a new file, and if I add a new file, then we'll run and Git status. So let's see. So I'm going to add a new file. This file I will call it let me just say status.js. Okay, so now I'll save it. Let me use git bash here, please, so that I can be clearing. So right now, I just added a new file. All right, this new file, if I run git status now, I will see that this file is not tracked. So this is the status of my project. It says untracked file. Status.js is not yet tracked. I say I have nothing added to be committed. All right. So this is the status of my project right now. I have not tracked anything. So, but let me go on and say, let me now go on and modify this file. Say console.log. I'll say hello. So I've added I've modified this file. So if I go on and run Git status again, it's still telling me that the thing is this. Because of Git has not tracked, because Git is not tracking this status. Any changes I made here, Git will not look at it. So if I want this status file to be tracked by Git, I have to add it. So I will go on and say, I will have to add it. I will say git add. I could just use the dot, or I could just use status.js. So once now what have I done? I have staged this file. So since I have staged it, it's now going to be tracked by Git. Any changes that I make will be tracked by Git. So if I go on and run Git status again, you can see it's now saying that changes to be committed. So we have staged the status.js file. If I go on now and say, and make any change, just say hello world, all right, this file, this status file will now be modified. So Git is also tracking it. If I say Git status, it says that, yeah, I'm tracking this file already, but you have not staged it. Sorry, you have not committed it, but I'm tracking it. Any changes you made to this file, I will track it. But now this file has been modified. Please stage the changes that you have made here. So it's telling me that this status.js that I did something, I modified it, and it is the changes that I made right now have not been staged. So it's telling me use git add to update what will be committed. All right. So it shows files that are modified. That's what we just seen here. It shows files that are staged. Yes. As soon as I stage the status.js, it showed that it has been staged, yet to be committed. It tells you your current branch you are on. So it tells you the current branch. We'll talk about branching in the next class. It says that I am on branch main. So you can see that, look at it, look at the branch that I am currently. So this is the branch here. Okay. And the gate status is telling me the branch that I'm currently working on. We'll talk about branch in the next class. So it reminds you of the next Git commands you might want to run. So it also tells you that, okay, in this case, run git restore. If you want to unstage, if you don't want Git to be tracking this file anymore, use this command, git restore, to unstage it. In this case that you have modified this guy, you can use git add file to update it to stage the changes, or you can use git restore to discard the changes in working directory. So these changes that I made, if I no longer want to use it, I will say git restore, then the name of the file. I will restore it to back. Okay, let me show you. Let me just show you guys. Let me show you. So in this case now, I modified the status.js, and now the git status is telling me things that I can do. So in this case, it says that if I want to discard the changes that I just made, remember it was hello, right? And I now made the changes, it's now hello world. It says if I want to discard the changes, if I no longer want the changes, I can say git restore the name of the file, but be very careful. Look at, watch this file, watch this file. It is hello world now. And if I say git restore, so git restore status.js, what is this command going to do? It's going to change. Remember, it was hello before, and I made it hello world. So if I now say git restore status.js, it's going to take it back to what it was before. So just watch. As soon as I hit enter, you can see it has changed it back. Do you understand? So it has discarded all the changes that I made before. So if I go and run git status again, you can see nothing to be, it's no longer modified. It has, what's it called again? It has restored it. It has discarded all the changes that I made before. So this is just amazing, okay? So how to use it? Simply run git status, all right? Git status off. Use git status often to avoid mistakes. Git status will show you the status of your project so you know what you're working with. It does not change anything in your repository. It's purely informational. Think of it as a dashboard that keeps you updated about your project's condition. In short, Git status is like checking your to-do list before saving changes in Git, okay? We also have the Git log. If you want to view the history of your commits, all your commits, you use the git log command. So the git log command shows you the history of commits that you have made in a repository. It's like a journal of all the snapshots you've taken of your project. Think of it as your project's timeline. You can see who made changes, when they were made, and what the commit messages were. So if I go on now and say, I want to see the history of my project, I can say git log. If I hit enter, look at what it's telling me. I only have one commit so far. It says I did a commit, and this is called checksum. This is the hash. This is the unique identifier for this commit. Every commit that you make, every snapshot that Git take, there is a unique identifier for it. So who did this commit? Moha Paulson, and this is the email address. When the date is this, and what is the commit message? The commit message is this. All right. So you can see if I do another commit now, git I would have more commits. So in this case now, I only have one commit. So what it does, it displays a list of commits in reverse chronological order. It shows details of each commit, the unique commit, the ID, that's the hash. I just showed you that. The author's name and the email, the date and time, the commit message. So Git log helps you track project history and understand how code has evolved. You can copy a commit ID from the log to undo, reset, or check out past work. Please go and read that book, Git Pro. Read it very well, Pro Git is one of the most powerful tools for debugging and collaboration, since you can see exactly what happens and when. See, you see this Git class, you have to take it very seriously. You cannot work with a team if you don't know Git, if you don't know how to use Git and GitHub, especially. So in short, Git log is like scrolling through your project's history book to review all the changes that have been made. Now that you have the complete Git basic set, so Git init set up a repo. A repo is just a Git repository. Git adds stages, the changes. Git commit saves a snapshot. Git status checks project state. Git log view history. Okay, so thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this class. Please, if you have any confusion, please reach out to us. Drop it on the WhatsApp group and let's discuss further there. Okay, thank you very much.